I get to go home for the day. I remembered that. Yay.
Karen, I had a lot of fun at the conference this weekend. Rotary
Good,
conference in Iowa was really fun.
good
You
deal.
know, you know what they had for lunch? They brought in maid rights from Marshalltown,
Oh my, well, Mr. Mr. Drager and his
and they were good. They were still warm.
wow, they did good. Yeah. What else did they have besides the maid rights? Onion
Uh,
rings?
it was pretty inexpensive for them. They had chips and some salad stuff and cookies. That was it.
Hey, it worked. So, yeah, weather-wise, I'm hoping it warms up. My brother wants to go out and look for morel mushrooms. And I want the Orioles and the hummingbirds to get here, so.
Has anyone seen any Orioles yet?
Not yet, but they should be coming. I've heard of some hummingbirds down at the Missouri border. But that's about it. And they usually come up about the same time. I haven't even seen bluebirds yet, which is kind of unusual. Normally I see some bluebirds coming.
It was 28 degrees the other day.
I know.
That'll keep them away.
Well, with the lilacs starting to bloom, I'm hoping now I've got the pear tree and the apple trees blooming. I hope.
Heather's putting out grape jelly, so they're bound to come the next couple days. She's
Yep,
willing them to happen.
yep. And I've got the grape jelly, I've got the oranges. I made a fresh thing of hummingbird food, so we're good. And like I said, we're actually getting spring. We're not just getting a week of it and then moving straight into summer, so.
Well, felt very much like summer not this past weekend, but
The
2 weekends.
weekend before. Yep, go from almost 90 to low freezing. It's Iowa. Yeah. Set that to that.
All right. Well, should we get started, Karen, or give folks another minute or two? One more minute. All right. Well, it's officially afternoon now, so good afternoon, Rotarians. The April 22nd meeting, and as we do for every meeting, online or in person, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So feel free to join me if you'd like. You can stay on mute or unmute, but we'll go ahead and get started here. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Are there any Rotarians that we should keep in our thoughts today or this week? Please be sure to come off of mute so that we can hear you. All right. I'm not seeing any Karen, so we'll just we'll move on. And I think we've got a guest with us today, Jeff Nelson. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for affording me an opportunity to speak to you all. I am the Jeff Nelson, Suicide Prevention Coordinator is one of my roles at Iowa State University within Student Counseling Services. And we are again hosting the Out of the Darkness Iowa State University Campus Walk. And it's this Saturday, April 27th at 10 o'clock on the South Campanile lawn. And this is really a partnership between the members of Iowa State and the community, and joining 250,000 folks across towns across the United States to draw attention to the fight for suicide prevention. So really about helping to change the culture around mental health, increase awareness, decrease stigma, increase help-seeking behavior. Last year we had a nice group of Rotarians who helped and assisted with volunteer at the event. So certainly an invitation. I put the volunteer link in the chat, and I have just a short, couple-minute video, and then that's really all I have for you today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Do I have the opportunity to share screen or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead. Yeah, again, while Jeff's pulling that up, as mentioned, there's the links in the chat feature today. So please look in there to click that link to see what volunteer opportunities are available. So go ahead, Jeff. We can see your screen.
Can you hear it as well?
Not real clearly. No, I'm not. I don't know if anybody else is.
Can you see the video? Do you see the video or not? The video.
Right now I see a picture of, looks like some students and
Okay.
putting up a sign, a large
right.
banner in
Okay.
front of the MU.
Okay. I'll keep trying to see if it'll work.
You're like me, it's like these stars apart. Ain't the tentacle stop. I've got distinctions are standing. Stars. One more night in backyard. This is
Okay, I'm sorry if you couldn't hear that. So the walk is free. Certain at the beginning, there is an opening. We have Sarah Shingren, who will be presenting and talking about the loss of her 13-year-old son to suicide at the beginning. Lots of sponsors will be there from the community, a lot of nonprofits as well. SI will be there. So certainly welcome, lots of free parking. And I'll end it with that. Thanks so much for allowing me to share about the walk.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Maybe just a couple questions if we have you for another minute. But what are some of the volunteer opportunities that or needs that you still have?
Sure. We have some volunteer opportunities around registration for folks that have already registered or folks who are registering at the time. Also, you might have seen the beads. Those beads represent different reasons around connecting around suicide and mental health. And those reasons, we form more connections. So we have folks that are helping those that are participating to get beads, their shirts as well. Lots of swag to help kind of disperse as well. So, and then just directing folks. So.
Great. You kind of answered my next question, which was the different colored beads and what those stood for or represented. So great. And just again, timing for the event on Saturday, the actual walk itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So the walk, the opening ceremony begins at 10 o'clock. Registration and pickup starts at 9 o'clock, and it's on the South Campanile lawn, right across from the MU, between the MU, just right across from the fountain. So, like I said, lots of free parking. There's lots of information on the website too around where to find parking. It's going to be beautiful out. There's not going to be any rain, and if it does, then on Friday we'll have an announcement, and we'll be in the state gym where we can stay dry, and if the weather affords us the opportunity, then we'll from the state gym we'll go on the walk from there. So
okay, great. Are there any other questions for Jeff? Please unmute, or you can drop in the chat. Give folks a few seconds, Jeff. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on today, Jeff, and we will make sure that folks have the link and an opportunity to view some of those volunteer opportunities or register, sign up to participate in the walk itself. So thank you very much.
thank you, Mason. Thanks for having me, and I'll post the video and the link for you.
Great. Wonderful. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Karen, any other housekeeping items before we bring on our guest speakers? Okay. She's shaking her head no, so that's the universal sign. We will continue on. Sounds like we've got some folks from Access on today as our guest speakers, and so would certainly invite. I don't know if there's Lisa or it sounds like there's maybe more than one. So feel free to take over the microphone and introduce yourselves and just dive right in. Again, if folks, if you do have a question while you're thinking about it, please drop it in the chat, and we'll do our best to kind of keep an eye on that through the presentation of our guest speakers, but otherwise we'll catch them at the end. So with that, we'll open it up to Access.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Diggs, and I started with Access Assault Care Center in 2017. I started as finance manager, And I'm currently in that role in addition to serving as co-interim executive director along with Kristina Griego, who's here with us. We have been in that role since September of 2023, and we are currently doing both of our individual roles. Kristina is as interim director, is the supervisor of our teams. Kristina will be giving you some more information about our services. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to reach out. Thank you. Kristina, take it over.
Thank you, Lisa. So as Lisa said, my name is Kristina Griego, and I supervise the homicide and all the violent crime teams at Access, which means I get the opportunity to supervise the domestic abuse team, the sexual abuse team, the homicide and violent crime team, the housing team, and then we also have a responders team as well. Access covers Greene, Boone, Story, Marshall, and Tama counties, and our services are free, voluntary, and confidential. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just jump into the hats that Access advocates wear. One of the big things that we like to share is that we are strictly confidential, and we're actually protected by Iowa Code 91520A, which means if I'm meeting with Lisa and an officer comes in and says, "Hey, I saw you're meeting with Lisa, how's everything going?" I could actually neither confirm nor deny. And what's nice is all of our local law enforcement and all of our service area respect and understand that we're protected by that code, and they understand that survivors sometimes just aren't ready. And if they're not ready to present or divulge that they're actively going through a trauma, because we're here to empower them when their power was taken away in the assault. So we also have 5 crisis lines. And one of those crisis lines is a dispatch line. And this dispatch line is actually for local law enforcement and emergency rooms to activate advocates. And so that means we're able to respond to the hospital on an active sexual assault and a domestic abuse, which means we go in, we educate the victim on, what could take place at the sexual assault exam before a SANE comes in or before law enforcement comes in. We also have crisis counseling opportunities. We're all certified crisis counselors here at Access, and we wear many hats. So if we ever have a situation where somebody divulges they need assistance in something else, and we can't provide that assistance, we will make sure to find somebody that can while we're also working with the individuals. We also provide court advocacy, and that's ranging from the civil side and the criminal side. So a lot of time with clients going through the criminal justice system, sometimes they just need assistance going through that and what it looks like, what a deposition is, what it looks like, the triggering portions of it as well. And we can also attend court with them. So it just kind of depends on what it is that they're looking for. If there is no criminal investigation at all, and they're just somebody that's wanting services, but they want to be safe, we are actually educated on filling out civil restraining orders, which means we can fill them out, take them to the clerk of court with them, or we could e-file it online for them. So it's just up to what the client's wanting. We also provide community outreach. So that could be coalition community meetings. We go out into the community as well and do presentations, just like what we're doing here today, and educating the community on domestic sexual abuse and violent crimes. We also have programming that we have opportunities of, which are groups that we have for our clients. And we currently have one actively going on virtually through our intern program as well. Access also has 4 emergency apartments in Story County, which is ideal because considering if somebody reaches out and says, "I currently am not safe in the home that I'm in right now." We also have a regional shelter, but that's in Fort Dodge. So let's say a family is wanting to stay in Story County. We want them to stay in Story County if they're employed somewhere, if their kiddos are going to school. It's ideal to keep them in the community that they have all those responsibilities in, versus packing them up when they're the victims and sending them away. It's not fair to the kids, and it's not fair to the individual that's fleeing as well. Let's see what else. We also, if we're able to assist with financial assistance, it's not just here, let's pay first month's rent and deposit. It is let's work on case management. Let's get you stable. After Access assists, we want to make sure that you can sustain the property as well. And so we do have housing advocates, and all of our advocates are educated on case managing and checking in with clients and outreach to better assure the client, and if there's kiddos involved, to stay in that unit as well. I'm big on, I'm actually not very big on, I'm just going to be very honest. I don't like statistics. The statistics are based off of reporting. Access advocates don't actually work with individuals that report and are in the criminal justice system. A lot of time individuals are coming to us when they're still with the individual that's harming them. We're not here to tell them to leave prematurely. It's all up to them. Again, we're here to empower them. And so statistics, I think, can be harmful because not all of it is accurate because, again, it's based off of reporting. And if individuals are coming to us at a time where they don't want to press charges or they're not ready to leave their abuser, they just want an education behind it and maybe just safety planning. Or maybe they're wanting to get into an emergency shelter for the time being. And then sometimes we have individuals that go back. That's not on us to decide. And so oftentimes when we work with individuals, it's at different milestones in their life through their trauma. Same with sexual abuse. We have individuals that come to us that were sexually abused years ago, or we have individuals that come to us that were just sexually assaulted recently, and we're the first individuals that they divulged that sexual assault to. So again, we work with individuals through all walks of life and through all of our service areas. And we actually have clients outside of our service area as well that used to live in Story County or in any of our service area as well. And we still provide assistance the best way that we can. And I just kind of wanted, I know I talked a lot, but I want to give anybody the opportunity to ask questions.
Do you or how does this access work with, say, first responders?
Great question. So oftentimes we actually get a call at the same time as well. And some of our referrals actually come from local law enforcement, county attorney's office. We all wear many, many hats and we're all a part of, I guess, the client's driving the bus and we're just sitting on the bus with the client. So we do what we can, where we can. And sometimes we play that middle person as well. If a client reaches out to us and says, hey, I'm working with this detective and I have a couple questions. Well, if they're able to sign a release with us, then we can contact that individual or that officer to get any information the client's needing. And same with the county attorney's office and the victim witness coordinators over there.
Thank you. I had another question. Kristina and Lisa, how did you get in? How did you start with Access? Why do you do what you do with Access? I'm curious how you got involved originally and why you do it.
So I started off, I'm originally from Marshall County, and I actually started off graduating high school in 2010, and I started volunteering at a small shelter in Marshalltown called DBA SAC, and it turned into an internship. And while I was in college, and then I decided to obtain a job full-time there while I went to the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. And while I was there, I decided that I did not want to be an officer. I felt like although I respect law enforcement very much, I felt like my hands would be tied a lot of the time. And I think being an advocate and having the opportunity to empower and better assist victims of domestic and sexual abuse and violent crimes, I found to be more beneficial. And so I decided to kind of turn things around, and I ended up going more towards behavioral psychology. And I've been with Access since 2012. Lisa?
Let's see. I guess I went to college, kind of took a different route. I actually went to college for computer science and did that for several years. And then I had children. When I had children, I decided I wanted to stay home with them. So I kind of veered off into the accounting world because I was able to do some of that from home. So I did that while my kids were young. And the opportunity came up for me to go back to work full time, and I came across the ad for Access. I did not have a victim service background. I didn't even know what Access was, but it sounded intriguing to me. Just the mission sounded intriguing, and I had always loved, I'm a numbers person, and Kristina and I go back and forth because she does not like numbers and I love numbers. But I found working for Access, there's days when I'm just so involved in budgets and numbers and all of that. But it seems like it has more of a meaningful purpose than just being an accountant and just being behind the scenes, working on budgets and profit and loss and all this all day long. I'm still doing all of that, but I see the end result is just a way to impact people. And we have a very robust financial assistance package. We do, depending on the year, we do anywhere from $100,000 to almost $200,000 worth of client financial assistance, where we're directly paying clients rent, utilities, enables to enable them to get into a safe property and get started on their own. And I find it a challenge just to be able to find the funding to help each individual person. Sometimes we have to get very creative because of our grant restrictions. And I just love taking the time to look across all the different grant sources and be able to kind of have that kind of aha moment when it's like, oh yes, we are able to assist this, and we are able to help them with multiple months. And it's just a great feeling to be able to do the work that I love, working with numbers, and just know the outcome is helping a large amount of people.
That's great. To that end, Lisa, can you talk about some of your funding sources?
Our funding sources, we have funding through a wide variety of areas. We have federal state funding through a victim services grant, which helps fund our sexual abuse program, our domestic abuse program, and our HVC program. That is the bulk of our budget is that funding source. The sad thing is that that funding source has been cut the last several years pretty regularly, and we are looking at a more drastic cut this year, starting in October. We also have a wonderful grant. It's called the Asset Grant, and that grant is a coordinated effort with Story County, the City of Ames, the Story County, the City of Ames, United Way of Story County, and ISU, the government student body at ISU. And that is a major source of funding for our advocates in Story County, as well as helping fund our shelter program, which provides the sheltering, whether it be the 2 apartments that we have. We have 2 scattered site apartments, and we also have a duplex that we own. So that grant really helps us pay for those expenses related to that. We also get county funding from each of our counties. We get specific amounts of county funding. We also get local funding, city funding. We also get donations from private individuals as well as businesses. And then we also have a housing grant through, it's a federal program that's funneled through the state of Iowa, the Iowa Finance Authority. And that helps us also fund our shelter program, as well as helping us provide some financial assistance to individuals getting started in new housing. So we have a wide variety of different funding sources.
I have a question for you, Ms. George Galito speaking. I think that you are facing a very major cut again in October. The state of Iowa gets $5 million, or the cut is $5 million, and it's all federal money. And I've been following this because it also funds service to victims of human trafficking. And we got the Attorney General to put the $5 million into her budget, substituting state money for the loss of the $5 million in federal. And just want everyone to know that our governor took that out of her budget. And so the appropriations bill that got passed last week has no additional funding from the state. This is a drastic cut, and you've already gone through several cuts. You used to have a shelter, and you had to end your shelter, and you have at least the 4 apartments. So I'm just wondering, my question is, how are you going to prepare for another cut?
Just to backtrack a little bit, when we moved to, you mentioned that we got rid of our shelter. Part of the reason why we got rid of our shelter was to shift to a different model.
Right.
Instead of having one shelter with everyone living in one building, we have gone to scattered sites so that we have the duplex and then we have the additional apartments elsewhere. So they're not living in the same location. They're all in different locations. And one way that we are looking at, so our budget is set up on a fiscal year basis. We go from July through June. So the CVAD, the grant that is funded by the Victim Services Grant, they go from October to, it starts on a different timeline. So our cuts won't hit until 3 months into our fiscal year. So the way that we have some additional grants. We have an American Rescue Plan grant, which has been helping to fund our shelter and some of our administrative costs, and our client assistance. So we're kind of leveraging that grant and just being very mindful of what we're spending now, and we'll be able to utilize more of that grant because it's a multi-year grant. So our initial plan is just to be mindful of how we're spending the grants across the fiscal years, so that we can move a little bit further into that fiscal year, and hopefully we don't have to have staffing cuts. Our goal is to try to keep the staff that we have, because we get spread very thin when we're spread across 5 counties. So that's kind of our goal for now. We're really short-staffed in our administrative department. But through the course of the next year, we'll just have to shift our funding streams to look for more sources of funding our different services. There's going to have to be more marketing, more individual donor relations. We just haven't really had as much time recently to do that, since we have the co-interim directorship that we're under right now. So that will be a major focus for us to shift, what we're doing. I'm not sure how much state money they keep talking about, being able to find some state money to be able to shift into that funding source. I just haven't seen anything come across yet. And it is a major cut for us. The cuts that they're looking at are 40, upwards of 40%, possibly more. Not all of our victim service grant comes from VOCA funds, which is where the cut is coming from. So we're hoping to receive a little bit of state money to cover some of that, but I'm not holding out any hope for that.
You're on mute, George.
Unfortunately, you just lost that hope because the legislature did not approve any additional funding to make up that loss. And I'm really concerned about that. And, your, ability to continue your important service to victims of, domestic abuse, victims of rape. And it's so important of a service, and I hope that local funders and donors will help make up the difference.
Yep, that's what we will have to count on that. And there are, there are certainly more county grants that we can apply for and different foundations that we can apply for. But it will be a major accomplishment to fill in that extra gap. Like I said, the first fiscal year, we've been kind of planning for this for a long time, just knowing that it was coming. So we've been kind of strategic on how we're spending our grant funds to shift some of it into that next fiscal year, so we can use that funding. But it will catch up. We might be able to go the first fiscal year without having to have any staffing cuts. That's the last thing that we want to do. So we will have to push the, reaching out to donors more. It's just something that we have to plan for in our next fiscal year.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm curious, and this, forgive me for how I asked this question, but is there currently kind of a waiting list for your services, or is there, are you able to meet the, again, forgive me, lack of a better term, the need that exists, and now maybe with these cuts create extra, stress on your ability to do that? Again, forgive me for how I asked that question, but considering the sensitivity of the things you're talking about, just, is there already a lot that, your team is spread pretty thin already?
So there is no waiting list to obtain an advocate. Sometimes it could take 24 hours, and a lot of time, our staff just have to be really good at time management. So if we have something that is like a court proceeding, that's something we can't reschedule. So if we have crisis counseling, we just kind of schedule around it.
Okay. Thank you.
And one thing that might happen, as we go forward, because the need is increasing. It's not like the need is decreasing. So we just have to be more mindful about the services that we are providing, and potentially we'll have to refer out more services than we are at this point. We mentioned that sometimes we do work with survivors that are outside of our service area, and some of those we might not be able to handle as many of those, and we might have to refer them to someone in their service area. We do have people that are coming in from other counties that want to establish residency in Ames, for instance, because there's access to transportation and housing and jobs. So we do have people coming in there, but we might have to be just more cautious on providing those types of services and just looking at the cases where we are referring out.
And maybe Karen can help connect dots here, but is there, from a donation, there's some endowment connections with the Story County Community Foundation? Is that true, Karen? Lisa, you're nodding your head, so maybe you can answer that too. But talk about some of the different ways that private donations could be made to help.
You kind of froze there a little bit. Yes, we do have a foundation that's set up through the Story County Community Foundation, where donors can contribute to that fund. That fund for us has been just in a growing state. So we are not using that money. We are using the interest off the money. So whatever interest is earned over the course of the year, we do pull that off into an operational grant that we will use that year for our operations. Other than that, we've just been fortunate enough that we have not had to tap into that base fund. So we just let that grow from year to year. But yeah, that is definitely, we need some more outreach on that, just to make more people aware of that fund and the opportunities for tax savings.
This meeting is being recorded.
Whoops. Sorry, I had to jump back in and was trying on my phone at the same time. So technical difficulties. Okay. Are there any questions for other questions for Lisa or Kristina? Oh, it looks like Karen just dropped one question. Do you have a board of directors?
Yes, we do. We're governed by a board of directors. We currently have 9 members. We've just added 2 members this last month. So yeah, we have a board of directors, and they're spread across all of our counties. We don't currently have someone from Greene or Tama County, but we do have board members representing Boone, Story, and Marshall County. So if you have any interest in being on our board, we are trying to add a couple of board members. And I must say we have a very active board. They have been very helpful to us. Like I said, Kristina and I started as interim directors in September, and they put in a lot of extra time just to get things going with us and to help us get started in our new roles. They're very interested in the mission of Access. All of them have some connection outside of Access, related to their work or personal. But we're just very blessed with a board that they've just been there with us every step of the way. I wouldn't change it for anything. They've been very helpful to us.
Great. Another question in the chat from Dean Phillips. When you establish a case, how long does that relationship last?
So every single case that an Access advocate has is completely different from the case before. It just kind of depends on if they're just seeking crisis counseling. If they want to exceed 6 months, oftentimes we'll refer them to a therapist or a psychologist that can better fit their needs after working with Access advocates. If it's a criminal case, I mean, we all know criminal cases could take up to a year plus. So we'll actively work with them through the criminal justice system while also engaging with crisis counseling, trigger, safety planning in the meantime. So it just kind of depends.
Give folks another little bit here to identify any questions they'd like to ask here. Okay. Oh, one just came in. Karen, are there specific donations other than funds that are needed? So aside from monetary, are there other donations that that Access might need?
We do have a lot of individuals that donate items for our shelters, whether that be pillows, bedding, personal items, laundry detergent, things like that. We recently had a sorority that did a donation drive for us, and they almost filled up our entryway with a whole plethora of items for our shelter. It was amazing. So that is one thing that really helps us, because if those items weren't donated, we would have to pull them out of our budget. So it really does help our overall budget when we have those types of items donated. The other thing that is helpful to us are gift cards. We have individuals that donate gift cards so that we can provide gas cards to clients. Something such as Walmart gift cards are helpful because we have clients that need personal items. If they escaped their home situation, they might need clothing because they left home with the shirt off their back, or escaping a domestic, they just might not have anything. So sometimes those types of things will help a client just get a few basic things they need to get going. So those are kind of the things that kind of stick out in my mind right now.
Yeah, great question. And I was trying to type while you were speaking, Lisa, and put some of that information in the chat so we kind of have that memorialized. So
yeah, and the other thing I would say is that in regards to our shelter, just having a large volume of people go through the shelter apartments, they're heavily used. Our shelters are usually always full. So at some point we will likely need to upgrade our furniture. So we kind of do that periodically. So those are things too that we kind of advertise to people, that we often have groups that might want to kind of sponsor a unit where they would kind of be in charge of donating materials, replacing a couch, replacing a kitchen table, replacing pots and pans, things like that. So those are additional items which we have to raise the funds to do that. And oftentimes we just don't have enough funding in a given fiscal year to do all of the updates that we would like to do to make it a little more comfortable for our shelter residents as they're there.
great. Thank you for providing that. Are there any other questions? Well, again, thank you, Lisa and Kristina, for joining us today, and the service that you provide to not only Story County, but the surrounding counties. And we've been given a lot of great information here today, opportunities to make an impact. And I did include a link to your website for the donation, but also good to know that there's monetary or just other items that are of need for your shelter services. So very much again, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
All right, Karen, we'll switch back to the presentation. Okay. All right. I think that's all we have. Again, mental health first aid training, please let me or Karen know via email, or you can catch us at the next meeting. If you have interest, there'll be a sign-up sheet. We're going to spread this around to some of the other Rotary clubs in the area to try to get as many people in the room that day as possible. So please, if you have time, I know it's difficult to get a whole day off during a work week, but we think it's going to be a great event and very impactful. So another shout out to that. Again, we will go ahead and close for the day, and we'll do that with our with the 4-way test. So the things we think, say, and do: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.